Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are talking about something sneaky, something that feels like a superpower, but is actually a hidden enemy capable of completely sabotaging your success without you ever seeing it coming. So let me just ask you straight up. What if that thing you're most proud of, your high standards, your incredible attention to detail, what if that's the very thing that's actually holding you back? Because that's what we're going to get into. We're going to pull back the curtain on this thing called unhealthy perfectionism. It's this tricky impulse that so many of us praise as a good thing, when really it's more like an anchor weighing us down. All right, let's get into it because we have to draw a really clear line in the sand here. We are not talking about the healthy drive to do your best. That's awesome. No, this is something else entirely, something that's actually rooted in fear. See, unhealthy perfectionism isn't just about wanting to do a good job. It's a mindset that absolutely paralyzes you. It's when you set standards that are just impossible to meet. It's when making a single mistake feels like the end of the world because your entire sense of who you are is tied up in being flawless. And this is the critical difference right here. On one hand, you've got healthy striving. That's all about growth, it's about getting better, and it comes from inside you. But unhealthy perfectionism, that's all driven by fear. Fear of messing up, fear of what other people will think. Your entire focus shifts from how can I improve to how can I avoid getting judged. And that right there is the whole paradox. This quest to be flawless becomes so consuming that you actually stop getting things done. You get stuck, spinning your wheels on tiny details while the actual goal just sits there, unfinished. So what's the real-world damage here? How does this actually show up and sabotage your life? Well, it happens in some really sneaky ways that you might not even connect back to perfectionism at all. It really boils down to four major, paralyzing consequences. Just listen to that little voice in your head for a second. Sound familiar? The project feels so huge, the standard is so ridiculously high, that the easiest thing to do is just not start. And boom, there it is, the first consequence, chronic procrastination. You're so terrified of producing something that isn't perfect that you just put it off, and you put it off. And then you end up rushing at the last minute, which ironically guarantees it won't be perfect. Okay, now think about this one. This isn't just about doing a good job anymore. Suddenly, the task is a test of your fundamental worth as a human being. Every little detail carries this impossible weight. And you can probably guess where that leads. It is completely, totally unsustainable. It leads directly to burnout. You're just constantly chasing this impossible standard until all the energy, all the joy you had for your work, it's just gone. This one is just devastating. The fear of not being an expert on day one is so intense that you might actually turn down incredible opportunities. You slam the door on your own growth. And that's consequence number 3. You start avoiding anything new. Perfectionism shrinks your world and traps you in your comfort zone because anything outside of it feels way too risky. And this mindset doesn't just mess with you. It starts to spill over onto everyone around you. You start holding other people to your own impossible standards, and when they fall short, you take it personally. The end result here is, frankly, damaged relationships. There's this constant tension, and the people you love start to feel like they can never do anything right, which creates frustration and distance. Okay, that was a lot of bad news, I know. But here's the really good news. You are not stuck with this. We're going to pivot now and talk about a toolkit, real practical strategies you can start using today to break free from this cycle. We've got 5 powerful, actionable steps. These aren't just ideas. They are actual techniques you can use to start shifting your focus away from this impossible idea of perfection and back towards making progress. Let's kick things off with one of the most powerful tools out there, cognitive reframing. It's basically about catching that toxic thought in the moment and consciously replacing it. So that voice that says a mistake is a catastrophe, you stop it and you replace it with a mistake is just data for learning. It sounds simple, but that one little swap can change everything. All right, you ready for your homework? This is going to sound crazy, but I want you to try it. Send an email, a low-stakes email, with one small deliberate typo. Seriously, this is a form of exposure therapy. You're proving to your brain that the world doesn't end when things aren't perfect. It's an incredibly powerful little experiment. So all of this really leads us to a whole new way of thinking. It's about letting go of this need to present yourself to the world as a completely finished, polished product. It's about daring to be a work in progress. And I want to leave you with this question. Just really think about it. If your best friend came to you and had made a tiny mistake, would you look them in the eye and call them a total failure? No way! Of course not. You'd give them grace. You'd give them compassion. So why won't you give that same compassion to yourself? Let's end on this thought. The people who really make an impact, the ones who change things, they weren't perfect. They were messy, they made tons of mistakes, but they were brave enough to be incomplete. Your goal isn't to be flawless, it's to be courageous enough to just get started.